So yes, let's see what it says. So yesterday I went trick and treating. I got everything which I didn't want. I went home empty-handed. It was cold. We could only go to 3 houses and I had a headache. That was my very, very sad Halloween 1979. And I wrote about it in just 6 lines. See, there it is, sort of like down there. But those 6 lines, all this time later, from 89, 99, 09, 19, 42 years later, those 6 lines take me back to a dark night, being cold, having a headache. My mum saying, "You're only allowed to go to 3 houses, so choose which ones you want," and going there and getting like given an apple or something. Who wants an apple at Halloween? Who wants to be given an apple? No one does. You want chocolate, you want sweets, no one wants an apple. Anyway, sorry, the scars run deep. 42 years later, but and no offense to anyone who gave an apple for Halloween. That's fine. It's just me, you know. Although I did see 2 oranges lying in the street, cruelly abandoned this morning, which I thought was someone still trying to give fruit at Halloween. It's not right. Don't give fruit. Anyway, so just writing a few words is a way of remembering stuff and putting pictures not only back into your own mind in terms of memories, but also creating images for other people. Everyone who heard that might be imagining what their Halloween was like, or might be able to imagine what my Halloween was like all that time ago. So people say to me, did I know I wanted to be a writer? They say, did you always know you wanted to be an author, Steve Cole? They say to me, because that's my name, Steve Cole. And the answer is, no, I didn't really know. I didn't even occur to me that could even be a thing. I didn't know that being an author was a thing that you could do. No one in my school says, yes, go and be an author. I knew I kind of liked books, I liked stories, but I certainly didn't know that could be actually a job. But looking back, I was always making up stories. Hello, Nicola's iPhone. We can hear. Oh, no, she's muted now. Well, it was nice to witness you. Anyway, for example, here is something I wrote when I was 8 and drew the pictures for the Peter and Anne Adventures. Now, in this, I was kind of slightly weird as a kid. I know you might find that odd to believe, but it's true. And I imagined I was in a TV show called The Peter and Anne Adventures. And guess what? I was Peter. I played Peter, the boy ghost investigator, always ready to solve terrible threats. I mean, look at this, and it was like an episode guide, you know, and for TV episodes that never existed, like The Haunted Cellar. Now, I couldn't spell haunted. Doesn't matter, does it? You know, people knew what I meant. The Haunted, it's even more scary than being haunted when it's haunted. Yeah, it actually doesn't sound that amazing as a story. Peter, Anne, and Linda go into a cellar and find they can't get out. Dun, dun, dun. 20 books fall out of a bookcase and almost crush Linda. The jukebox comes to life of its own accord. Chairs and tables fly around over their heads. While Peter is unconscious, Anne and Linda see the ghost in its real form, which is that. That was its real form. Pretty scary, I think you'll agree. They suck up the ghost with a vacuum cleaner and hide it in a hole in the wall, which they make. They cover up the hole. And that was the end of that story. So probably if that had been made into a TV show, it probably wouldn't have won many awards, I'm guessing. Probably wouldn't be being streamed on Netflix right now. But, you know, that didn't stop me. I had The Murder Machine. That was a good one. Coloclo Ranch. Peter and Anne moved to Texas for a while, it says. Well, you know, who hasn't? Dr. Mystic is one of my favourites. Dr. Mystic, a strange man Peter and Anne meet in the dusty London streets. A man who can make a bowl of goldfish appear out of nowhere. A man who can take an egg out of a lemon. A man who can defy the force of gravity. A man called Dr. Mystic, and with his natural magic powers, he will take over the human race. Well, if he can take an egg out of a lemon, I don't see how he can fail. Frankly, I probably would have started off with like the defying gravity thing, really, rather than like the bowl of goldfish out of nowhere. But, you know, that's Dr. Mystic for you. He's unpredictable. Peter and Anne call upon their cousin Linda for help. Well, you would, wouldn't you? Peter and Anne have a wild idea which might just work. Linda and the rest make a cardboard gun and threaten Dr. Mystic with it. Assuming it is metal, he tries to melt it, but can't. They know now he can't control cardboard. He is taken to prison and prosecuted. Possibly not in that order, or possibly he was. I like to think that they locked Dr. Mystic in a cardboard cell and went, anyone else could just tear their way through this cardboard cell, but not you, Dr. Mystic. You can take an egg out of a lemon, but you can't break through a cardboard door. Yeah, it's as you see these things, you know, although my drawing was first class, you wouldn't really read that and think this person is going to one day become a published writer with 210 books to their name. But what's interesting is that for all these pretend TV episodes, I also imagined there was a book. So one page is like, get this book, The Flowers of Planet X, on sale now. And look, you can see that maybe back to front writing, Stephen Cole there, which is my name. And When Statues Walk by Stephen Cole. So I was already putting my name on the covers of books because I thought that would be a pretty awesome thing to do. But it never really occurred to me that it would actually end up being what I did for my job. I was just happy just writing these things and making them up. As you might be able to tell by looking at these shelves behind me, some of which you can see and some of which you can't probably, but my childhood reading was dominated by three things: by Spider-Man comics, by Snoopy cartoons, and by Doctor Who. Now, these were the three things that had a huge, huge impact on me and the way that I tell stories now. And what's interesting about it is that I think it's fairly well balanced. You know, it's like Doctor Who always wins, Charlie Brown always loses, and while Spider-Man wins all the fights, his alter ego Peter Parker is always losing because people think he's a loser. Because people, you know, every time there's danger, Peter Parker goes running off in the opposite direction. They don't know that he's going to change into Spider-Man and come back and save them all. No, they just think that he's running away. So I always, that used to really bug me. I used to get really upset for Peter Parker. And what's interesting is the way that these people, they told stories without many words at all. A lot of it was pictures, and I was sort of fascinated. You know, it's like you can see from that picture here of this one here. There's like Snoopy as in the night. We know that because there's some black scribbles there. And look, exclamation mark. Okay, so he's awake. And then he goes, ah. So we know that, and he's smiling. So we know that it's not a bad, it's a, ah. It turns out there's the sweetest sound on a summer night, the sound of a can opener. That's right. So Snoopy is basically getting his dinner. So very simple story, but just those four pictures tell a story. And for those of us who do struggle with words or struggle with the sort of concentration it takes to form all those words, just finding ways to sort of like get the ideas of using pictures to help tell a story, I think is a really good one. And it was one that really appealed to my imagination. Now, I'm wearing it, as you see, a T-shirt, which is the front cover of the very first appearance by Spider-Man. I mentioned I like Spider-Man. And here is a very, very, very big book. Look at that. It's actually a different version of my T-shirt. It's like a modern version of the old T-shirt image. 1962, August 1962, Spider-Man first appeared in Amazing Fantasy. And I started reading him from about 1974. And I just loved Spider-Man. And again, what's interesting is that if you take the words, that's one thing, but it's the combination of the words and the pictures that really make it. Now, one of my favorite stories is called The Final Chapter, and it's Spider-Man versus Dr. Octopus. And the first 5 pages of this story is basically Spider-Man squashed under a really big machine. You can see here, look at it. It's like he's just squashed under the machine, panel after panel. But you see, he's trying slowly to break out from it. He starts there and ends up there. And you can see the pictures start off small as he's squashed underneath it, but then slowly he starts managing to lift it. And over the page again, you can see, again, starting here, you can see slowly he's raising up. The panel's getting bigger still. He's managing to lift it. And finally, he's there throwing it off. Now, even if you didn't have all the speech bubbles saying, anyone can win a fight when the odds are easy. It's when the going's tough, when there seems to be no chance. That's when it counts. You don't need all those words. You just need all these pictures. And you can actually see how they tell the story just as eloquently as all those words. But when you put them together, they're unstoppable. They're full of excellent superhero power. And I've always tried to take that kind of superhero energy and shove that into my stories, my writing, whatever I'm doing, whether it's a short thing or a long thing or whatever. If you have lots of energy, lots of excitement, and you kind of like just try and imagine those sort of big sort of like picture ideas, that is what it comes down to. Now, Doctor Who was a big thing for me. growing up. Doctor Who was very important to me because it scared me to death, basically. It absolutely terrified me. And I enjoyed being scared, but there would always come a time later on, normally at bedtime, I'd start thinking about it with the lights off, and I'd start getting scared, particularly scared of Daleks. Some of you will know what Daleks. I mean, there's a big Dalek behind me. I'm quite fond of Daleks now, but they used to scare me a lot. And so as soon as the music came on, like dum 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 dum. I mean, it was on last night, wasn't it? Doctor Who was on last night on Halloween. That was pretty cool. It came back for the first time in ages. I was watching, and but as soon as that music comes on, I remember being sort of like scared and looking from behind the pillow, and I'll be thinking, I'll be doing that the whole time. And then later on at night, my dad would come into my room and see me sort of like hiding under the bedclothes, and he'd say, "What's up?" And I say, he goes, "What's up? Are you scared?" "Yes, I'm scared." He goes, "What are you scared of?" "I'm scared of Daleks." He goes, "Well, don't be scared of Daleks, And he gave me some good advice. He said, if there's something that scares you, like Daleks or anything, something that scares you, try and imagine it wearing a pair of pink frilly pants. And so I imagined this Dalek wearing a big pair of pink frilly pants. And I have to say, it seemed less scary. It was like, if anything, the Dalek would be slightly embarrassed. It was like, "How dare you look at my pants?" It'd be like, it'd be awkward. And so that helped me. I mean, I even do it today. These days, obviously, I'm scared of different things. It's like, the tax man. Imagine the tax man wearing a pair of pink pants. That's what I do. My ex-wife, imagine her wearing a pair of pink frilly pants. Oh, no, wait, she does. She borrowed them from the tax man. No, anyway, no, forget that. But you get the idea. When something scares you, if you can just throw a bit of humor at it, it makes it a bit easier to deal with. Now, when I was 11 years old, because I was always getting scared of things. I mean, I was scared. I was stupid. When I was 10, I saw the film Jaws. Now, Jaws I was not meant to see that at age 10 because it was scary. It's full of this giant shark going around biting people in half. It was horrible. And then I became convinced that someone would manage to get a shark under my duvet when I was in bed. Why? Why would they do that? They'd have to carry the shark in a massive container, drag it up the stairs somehow, having broken in without alerting my parents. This dirty great shark struggling in a sack of water or something. Then they'd have unleashed it into my duvet. That poor shark would be going, "Bleh!" Wouldn't have been able to breathe. Why was I worried? I was relatively better off compared to the shark. But anyway, I was terrified. I tried to imagine the shark wearing pink pants, and that did help a bit. But it made me kind of like, want to do this and sort of write this stuff down. So when I was 11, I wrote this, because I was a bit scared of aliens, I wrote this song called Aliens Stink. It was like a poem really about aliens. Like, "Oh, I hate aliens. Yeah, smelly little aliens. Yeah, I think aliens stink. Yeah," like I was some kind of big guy, But this poem thing I wrote when I was 11 actually inspired me later on, when I actually wrote a book called Aliens Stink. Because I'd written a book called Magic Ink, and my story was about aliens using smell as a way of passing messages to the human race. And it made me think, oh, what was that? Some alien stink. How did that go? And it made me sort of like pick it up and the old ukulele and try and work it out. So sometimes if we do sort of struggle with words or with our concentration spans, by breaking it down into just a few simple rhymes, it actually sort of sticks in the head. And it's a way of making up stories and a way of like following stories. I think you'll be able to follow some of the rhymes that I'm going to come up with in this. But let's have a try at it. As I say, don't expect too much. I was 11, but it went like this. I've been to outer space. Now there's an alien on my face. There's an alien on my toes. There's an alien up my nose. There's an alien on my tongue. There's an alien on my thumb, obviously. Yeah. I hope no one was thinking bum. I hope, because we're not actually allowed to say bum in a webinar like this on Zoom. The Zoom police come in and start saying, "Who said bum?" It's going to be awkward. So don't go there. There's an alien in my hair. Frequently. There's aliens everywhere. And the catchy chorus bit went like this. Oh, I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. Oh, I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. Verse 2. There's an alien on my chin. There's an alien licking my skin. Ugh. There's an alien on my hips. There's an alien kissing my lips. There's an alien over my heart. And I think he's doing a forward roll. Before you even start, yeah. There's an alien in my shoe. And I think it's saying, how do you do? Aha! You probably thought I was going to say loo or poo or something, didn't you? But no, I did not, because when you're making stuff up, it's sometimes quite good to surprise your audience and make them think one thing and then do another. Yeah, that's a good little tip, I think. Let's get back to that catchy chorus. I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. Oh, I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. Oh, I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. Oh, I hate aliens, smelly little aliens. I think aliens stink. I hate aliens, smelly aliens. I think aliens stink. Yeah, so you get the idea. Someone's written there as the UK entry for Eurovision. Yes, Kat, you're absolutely right. That will reverse our trend of nil point if nothing else will. I'm sure, possibly not. But there you go. So I used to get scared of the aliens. Used to make up little songs about the aliens. And I started writing stories where the aliens got defeated, because that way I had control over them. Telling stories was a way of getting some control over these things that scared me, because I could make things turn out all right. So I wrote sort of like Doctor Who and the Mitex Power. I wrote shortly after that song. And I just did it in pencil and didn't show it to a sort of teacher or my parents even. I just sort of like wrote it. But there's the big picture again that tells big stories. There's a kind of blue thing going between the Doctor and this monster with a large horn. What's going on there? It's intriguing, isn't it? Well, we can find out briefly what's going on. We just read a bit from chapter 6 of Doctor Who and the Mitex Power. The Doctor had the feeling of being half asleep, half awake, and a migraine. Then he was in a metal room, bare. What? Oh, the room is bare. Sorry, Doctor Who's not bare. It's all right, don't worry. The dangers of not using the right punctuation. Then he was in a metal room, bare, no windows, doors, no furniture, just a four-walled room. Wow, what an imagination I had, eh? A four-walled room, pretty good, huh? All is ready, O Master, for your transformation, said Nyssa. Good, I would not like to keep my guest waiting, ha ha. Pull the lever and go, my faithful servant. Nyssa pulled the lever and went. In a flash, the voice belonged to a being of flesh and blood. Come, Doctor. The Doctor appeared. Let the test begin. The being the Doctor saw before him was brown with a curved horn on his forehead. He had cloven hands and feet like a devil. A blue streak of smoke appeared between the two aliens' foreheads as each opponent pitted his will against the other, and the penalty for losing the macabre game was death. Dun, dun, dun. Again, exhibiting zero sort of storytelling ability. But imagine if the 11-year-old me had known that one day I would end up writing my own Doctor Who books that would be published in shops. And I've written quite a lot of Doctor Who books over the years. But, there would be no this if there was no this. So the stuff we do when we are that bit younger is actually really important in like helping develop our imaginations. Even if we're just drawing or like telling stories, just brainstorming ideas, the more we use our imaginations, the better they get, the stronger they get. And let's face it, with all the problems facing the world, we need some pretty strong imaginations right now, which leads me almost seamlessly to the issue of COP26 and the environment, which isn't the happiest place at the moment. Now, I'm certainly not an expert on environmental matters, but I am as good at anyone else as being very worried and scared by what's going on, particularly for the younger people, because it's their world, it's your world, that us and the people before us have made a horrible mess of. And at some point, some difficult decisions are going to have to be made, and a mess is going to have to be taken care of. It's going to fall to the next children or their children to really do something about that. So I would never seek to preach to people in stories I write, like World Burned Down about the Amazon rainforests, or Welcome to Trashland about the problems of recycling electronic goods. But I do want to try and just raise a bit of awareness about it by telling a story using that as a backdrop. So it's not, in World Burned Down is a very important part of it, the Amazon wildfires, because poor old Carlos there is trapped inside them. But it's trying to tell a story, shining some light on some not very nice truths that I've done with this, Trashland, and in Tin Boy, which is another book I wrote for Barrington Stoke. Super readable on their excellent dyslexia-friendly paper without any show-through, with clear typeface, which makes reading it just a little easier. I'll read you a little bit now from World Burned Down, as I am an author. Yes, I'm an author, yes. And I'm supposed to be very serious at times. So I'll be very serious here as I read to you a section from World Burned Down, chapter 5, which is called The Flames. Now, basically, poor old Carlos, well, whereabouts on a book do you look if you want to find out something about it? You look at the back cover, don't you? You look at the blurb on the back. And we find out that Carlos's mother is a soldier, helping to protect the Amazon from the farmers, loggers, and miners who are illegally destroying the precious rainforest. It's a dangerous job, and when she makes powerful enemies, Carlos is kidnapped to teach her a lesson. Taken deep into the Amazon, Carlos manages to escape his captors, only to find himself trapped by fast-moving forest fires. Can he outrun the flames as the world burns down around him? Well, let's find out. Here's a little bit where poor old Carlos is running. He's met a boy from an indigenous tribe there called, his name is Davy, who's scarred and unwell, but he does know the jungle. Now, at this point, the flames are closing in. Davy burst through the bushes back into the smoky clearing and gestured to Carlos with one arm as if to say, "Come on, this way!" and sprinted back the way he'd come. Carlos ran after him, his heart thumping, already feeling the heat of the fire at his back. Davy was so swift it was hard even to keep him in sight, let alone catch him up. A troop of capuchin monkeys came bounding past, hooting with terror. One of them used Carlos's arm for a springboard, and he froze, surprised. But surprise turned to shock and fear as a wildcat sprang from the green shadows, a blur of black and yellow. It raced out of sight, running for its life. The crackle of flames was building higher behind Carlos. Did Davy know a safe way out? Carlos chased after him, crashing between the leaves and branches, driven by some primitive instinct to fly from death as fast as he could. He brushed aside webs that stuck to his face and spiders that clung to his hair. Sweat stung his eyes as it poured over his forehead. Carlos fought his way past thickets of thorns that tore at his clothes and skin, and his breath came in ragged scrapes. To his horror, he saw the crimson shadow of flames closing in from his left. He panted for breath, shielding his eyes as the fierce orange inferno drove out the colours of the rainforest, the vivid jungle green, the blue of the butterflies, the bright palette of the parrots, toucans, and hummingbirds. Carlos turned and ran, his breath catching in sobs now, a stitch digging at his side. The jungle was becoming a furnace, walls of blistering heat closing in on him. The whole world was burning down, and he fell to his hands and knees. "Help!" he screamed. The forest floor was alive with insects. A brown-patterned snake whirled past the leaves at his ankles in frantic S-shapes. Carlos realized suddenly that the faster creatures were fleeing the fire. Like monkeys, cats, and birds. The slower ones could try to hide, to burrow into the ground, or take refuge in water and try to wait out the flames and smoke. But to do nothing meant death. And right now, Carlos was just one more animal fighting for his life. He crawled forward, choking and gasping, summoned the last stubborn dregs of his strength. And anyway, you get the idea. Carlos is in trouble. The jungle is burning down, and the sad truth is that there's nothing in the rainforest adapted for fire, because fire should not be there. It is humans that have brought fire to the rainforest, and none of the life there, whether it be animal life or plant life, can adapt, can run, can hide, but it can't survive. And when you see the pictures of the rainforest burned down to nothing, it's quite a sobering sight, and you realize that it's happening to rather a lot of the rainforest. You'd think that the pandemic, the COVID, would have slowed things down slightly and stopped people illegally setting fire to the rainforest to clear the land for farming, or for timber farmers to be able to sort of like come in and then sort of like burn down the surrounding areas to suggest that they didn't really do any damage. But in fact, it actually increased because people weren't able to go to their offices and stuff. They spent more time actually going out into the area, doing more practical things, removing the forest. So there are things you can do, and I list some of those things at the back of the book. So it's not all hopeless doom and gloom. There are ways that you can support the rainforest and help. But this is it. Sadly, our modern life comes at a cost. I mean, there's lots of people, and lots of people eat lots of food, lots of meat, which means lots of cattle, but those cattle don't only need areas of rainforest turned into pasture, but also the farts they do releases methane into the atmosphere, which is another greenhouse gas. So it's not just carbon dioxide, it's also, the problem is that all these cattle are contributing to the problem. And the Amazons are kind of, the lungs of the earth. We need them to kind of soak up that carbon dioxide, because the more we cut down, the more it's released back into the atmosphere, which is why it's bad news. And if you ever just chucked away an old mobile phone or an old Xbox that doesn't work anymore or something like that, then again, you have to be very careful where it's going to go when it's recycled. Unfortunately, in this country, we do actually just get rid of a lot of our recycling by sending it to be buried in another country. Now, that's not real recycling, as we all know, but it's cheaper than the alternative. Think about it. When your iPhone is made, there's all those people on huge assembly lines with robots, putting them together intricately and carefully until they're perfect, and placing it in a little box with a little beautiful little thing. Oh, I love the little thing you peel off and open it up. Oh, it's like the best Christmas present. But there's no one at the other end when it's broken down. There's no one there waiting to take it apart carefully and put it back into pieces. No, that's down to you. You bought it, now you get rid of it. And unfortunately, the only way to break down these things is sometimes with brute strength, brute force, chemicals and flames, which release all sorts of toxic chemicals into the area. A lot of our stuff, fridges, freezers, old cars, old computers, monitor screens, it all ends up going off to places like Ghana in Africa. Imagine that. What a bizarre place to end up. They're shipped in there being called as second-hand electronic goods, but in fact a lot of it's just taken to this massive dump miles across called Agbabloshi in Ghana, and there's like hundreds of people, thousands, struggle to survive just a few pence each day by trying to sort of like break down the things themselves. They burn the rubber from the copper wiring that they can get a few pence for. They try and gather bits of metal in order to sell. We've got tin there, then they can get that. They gather it for recycling. They literally burn up these mobile phones, trying to get the gold and silver out of them through chemical processes, and then tip all those other chemicals away. There's a food market right next door to Agbabloshi, a massive food market, and all the fumes blow across. A lot of the livestock crawl across the dump there, chewing on whatever they can find, absorbing all those heavy metals, all the poisons that come up through the plants, the few plants that grow there. It's a fairly grim thing. I don't want to depress everybody. But again, there's things we can do. We can repair instead of chucking out. We can recycle, we can upcycle. And again, I put some ideas into the back of the books. So it's a story with this stuff going on in the background, but not all about that. I'm not sort of standing there preaching like that. And I apologize if you feel I've preached at you this evening, but it does feel particularly relevant just now with some quite worrying stuff being said and not enough people doing enough to get our emissions down. But hopefully in time we will manage to get those emissions down, and things will be a lot better. After that misery, I think we should probably finish on a bit of a song, which will cheer us all up, possibly, because it's a song I don't know. It's a song I don't know very well, but we're going to do it anyway. Now, characters are an important part of your story, whether it's a boy called Tono in Tin Boy, lives in Indonesia, or it's Carlos in Well Burned Down, whether it's Theo, who I see there's a Theo watching tonight. Yeah, hello Theo. I can see that thumb up from the lady with you there. So Theo, yeah, is the star of Welcome to Trashland. And of course, you've got characters like Doctor Who that you might know off the telly, but what about this Ood in the background there? What about that creepy creature lurking there? All these characters live somewhere in the head, and they slowly come out through pictures, through words, through our imaginings. So you don't have to be good at writing things down in order to imagine and to listen and to sort of like talk about stuff. And when I'm trying to get to know characters, I imagine that I'm sort of meeting them and having a bit of a chat with them, just sort of finding out a bit about them. Imagine sort of like inviting them around to sort of like a little bit of a party in my head where I can get to know them a little bit. And when I was writing a book called Invisible Ink, which I think is over here somewhere, one of the characters is this guy here that you can see in there. He's called Sagi Diop. He is the finest swordsman in the whole of France. He is a French medieval knight, and he's riding his pony, Maloney. Now, Sagi, even though he lived in about 1300 and something, he's still around today because he's taken something called powder that's turned him into a bit of a living ghost. And so we see Sagi here with a Victorian lady inventor and a boy from modern times today. These four living things, or living ghosts if you like, shouldn't ever be able to meet. They're from different times. But that's the wonderful thing about our imaginations, isn't it? We can make these things happen. We can find reasons for it to happen. And so I imagined talking to Sagi, and one of the things he does in the book is make up really bad songs. And so I imagined when I asked him, did you always know you wanted to be a knight? Just like I was always asked you, did you know you wanted to be an author? Did he want to be a knight? And he says, yes, I got advice on this from my parents. I shall tell you in the form of a song. Yeah. And that's what he did. And so this is the song he played for me. It went like this. I asked my mama, what will I be when I am 5 times taller than your knee? I asked my mama, what will I be when I am 5, 6 times higher than the difference between the ground and your knee? Don't be a hero, said he, strike your enemy with a sword and a mace. You can bash him in the face, oh, you can bash him in the face. I asked my papa, what will I be when I am 1/2 the height of yon tree? I asked my papa, what will I be when I am approximately between 1/2 and 1/3 the height of that tree? Oh, be a hero, said he, smite your enemy with a sword and a club. You can make the baddie blub. Oh, you can make the baddie blub. I asked my mama, what will I ride when I am a knight with a sword by my side? I asked my mama, what will I ride when I am celebrating the deaths of all my enemies who have died? Oh, ride a pony, said she, call him Maloney, call him Maloney the pony, this is not baloney. Call him Maloney the pony. And that was a song that he played to me, so I duly put it into the book, for all to read and all to enjoy. So that's cheered us up, I feel sure. If it hasn't done much good for my throat, I can promise you that. But in the meantime, we'll move on to the question part of the evening. When somebody questioning, it might be saying, what were you drinking before you came on, Steve Cole? But that's all I've got here is a Diet Coke, so it's as simple as that.
Thank you very much indeed, Steve. That was absolutely amazing. And I'm sorry that I said that you'd only written 80 or 90 books when you've written 210. So. Is there anyone that's got any questions for Steve to ask about? I'm fascinated by the way your characters come and play ukulele in your head. That's quite amazing. Yeah, incredible. Now, Cameron has raised his hand here. Cameron, are you there? And do you want to ask your question? I can't see you.
Are you a singer like Tom Fletcher?
My singer like, well, I am in a band, yeah. You can just see peeping into shot over there, my bass guitar. So yeah, I do sing. And you can find me on Spotify if you like. My band is called Faces Fall, as in Faces Fall. I'll type it in the chat so everyone knows. And in fact, we could use the listens, because I haven't even talked about the band for ages. So we're down to about like 3 monthly listeners. So see, Cameron, you can have a listen. You can make it 4. Okay, that'd be awesome. 4 monthly listeners. That'd be excellent.
Fantastic.
Have you written any little gem books?
Little gem books? No, but I have written lots of other books. And
Little gems.
so many books. Have you got a little gem book there? Do you like little gem books? Ah,
Yeah.
look at that one, the Moonshine Dragon. That looks cool.
It's a bit easier to
Yeah, that looks nice. So no, not written for that series, I'm afraid. But I have written
featured.
everything from Astrosaurs to Beast Quest. So yeah.
Beast Quest. Oh, he likes Beast Quest.
Like Beast Quest.
Yeah.
Do you have Furno the Fire Dragon? The first one, the very first one.
Yeah, I've read that before.
Yeah. Well, if you look on the inside cover of that, in fact, let's have a look.
Who did that one? Beast Quest one. Cool. Oh,
over here, and we see Furno the Fire Dragon. If you go to the right there, it says, "With special thanks to Stephen Cole," which is me. I think it's fair to say that Adam Blade couldn't have written this book without me. So that's good. You can also find my name in Arcta the Mountain Giant and Epos the Flame Bird. So yes, no stranger to Beast Quest. But also Cows in Action, about time-traveling cows, astrosaurs, dinosaurs in space, the Slime Squad, little miniature monster superheroes, Secret Agent Mummy, the 007 from 7 BC, actual 007 in Young James Bond books, lots of Doctor Who, Z-Rex, Z-Raptor, Z-Apocalypse. Oh, so many books! So many books!
That's,
Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron.
question from Rory. Thank you, Cameron, for that. That was great.
Hi.
Rory. Hi, Rory.
Hi.
What's your question for Steve?
Are you writing a new book?
I am writing a new book. Yes, I just had a new book out, which was written with Tim Peake, the astronaut. It's called Swarm Rising. Tim's name is slightly larger than mine, but you can see mine there. It's all right. That's because he's been into space, which is fair enough. This is the special green paged edition of it. So we are just working on the second Swarm book, which is called Swarm Enemy, and is out next August, if we write it in time. At the moment, Tim is busy touring the country, and I am talking to you instead of writing it. So I will hopefully find some time to continue writing that, and because it's really good fun working with Tim, working with a real astronaut. I always wanted to live in space. I was born in 1971. That was when we were sending people to the moon. So I thought by now we'd all be living on Mars, wearing silver uniforms, and just having flying in spaceships the whole time. I'm disappointed to find myself driving an Audi on all these potholed roads around here. No sign of Mars at all. It's rubbish. But to have gone to the International Space Station, how fantastic! Good old Tim. He's a lovely fella. Oh, I see. We have some questions starting to appear in the chat thing.
Got a question for Archie's got a question for you.
Let's have Archie's question.
Lee, is it Archie or Lee? You want to tell us your question?
Yeah. What's your recommended book to start with?
We can't really hear you, I don't think, Archie. I can see you.
What's the best book to...
What's the best?
We can't hear you.
I think what's the best book that I've written? Was that the question? If that was the question, I love all my books. I wouldn't let them out there otherwise. But I always think one of my favourites is the very first Astrosaurs book, because it was the success of the Astrosaurs that allowed me to write lots and lots of other books. But my favourite at the moment is Welcome to Trashland, because I really liked writing the characters, and it's quite a tense situation for Theo, who kind of like is trying to find some treasure hidden in this recycling dump, but some dangerous people are also after that treasure as well. So I really enjoyed writing this, and I really felt for the characters in this, because they have a horrible time, and so it's nice to be able to explore that. Let's have a look at these questions at the side here. So this is from, of all the books you have written, what is your favorite? I think I probably just answered that actually at the same time. How easy is it to come up with different ideas and situations for stories? Well, Kat, I like ideas. Ideas, I sort of think are the easy bit. You know, you're sitting there and then suddenly, ping, the good idea light bulb appears. And you think, oh no, dinosaurs in space. Or, ping, I know, a badger breaking out of prison or something like that. That's probably not a brilliant idea. But, I mean, it's quite easy to do. And again, if for those of us who don't like working with lots of words, images can be really powerful, really good. With astrosaurs, that's just two words squashed together, isn't it? Astronaut and dinosaur. Astronaut, dinosaur, squash them together, it's an astrosaur. And by taking two words and squashing them together, it's a really easy way of making something brand new. Like this is an ordinary chair. Well, it's quite a special chair, I admit that. It looks like something off Star Trek, doesn't it? For my poor old back. But if I was to cross this chair with something like a monster, chair, monster, thoomph, chonster. Part chair, part monster, yeah? A chonster. You might be thinking, well, how would that actually make a strike? It's like, oh, you sit on the chonster, of course, it bites you on the butt, of course. You might try and chew your entire bottom off, because then you can't run away, can you? Well, horrifying thought. Or think about animals, taking two animals and squashing them together to make a brand new animal, maybe like the perfect pet. You might have a pet poodle and a pet goldfish, squash them together, you get a poofish. Oh, no, a goodle, much better. Yeah, no one wants a poofish, do they? No, that's going to be disgusting. A goodle, much better. But you get the idea. So taking two words, just look around you, take one ordinary thing and then think of something fantastical, squash them together. What would you get? Even just imagining it or talking about it and telling someone is a way of telling a story. You don't need to worry about the words too much. It's just the idea and the picture. Now look, Archie's question was, which is the first of your books I should start reading first? Well, the wonderful news is there is no order to a lot of these books. They're all designed to stand alone. So if you wanted to read World Burned Down, you could do that without worrying about what comes before or since. If you want to read an Astrosaurs, then even though there's 23 of them, you don't need to have read any of them before reading the 23rd one, because it always recaps who the characters are and where they are, and there's a map at the front. It's all good. So just go by the cover that kind of you think looks the most exciting, or the blurb that sounds the coolest. Pick it up. Don't be put off if it's a long book, because chances are it's got lots of pictures in it, and if it's a shorter book, and particularly a super readable book, then who knows what you might find inside it. Let's have a look what else we got here. Ellis asks, how long does it take to write a book? Now that depends, Ellis, on how long the book is, how well I know the characters, and when it needs to be handed in. Now, some of the very first books I wrote were about aliens. I wasn't making that stuff up earlier. And they were very short. Look, Alien Olympics is like a little kind of pop-up book. Whee! Like that. So for very small people, whee! Like that. It was quite fun. Whee! Cool. Now, so if you ever think, oh, I'd like to write a book, but I'm no good with words and I can't write that many words, there's very, very short poems on every page, just 4 lines on each page. And there's only 5 of them in the whole book, and then it's finished. So that's not too scary. That probably took me a couple of hours to write, so not very much. Something like Invisible Ink, which is like 40,000 words, that probably took maybe 6 weeks. Something like Doctor Who, which is a bit sort of longer and more involved, probably about 7 weeks. Something like James Bond, 80,000 words, and really full of complicated spy stuff and not many jokes at all. That's going to take me, I think the longest a book ever took me was Shoot to Kill, which was my first James Bond novel, and that took about 7 months on and off. So it really depends on how long the book is and how well you know the characters, how confident you feel. Because if you're not really confident, that can slow you down. And it always takes me a long time to get started on a book, and then I sort of speed up as I go along. Sometimes I used to write 36 hours in a row on Bond, because I'd be so caught up in the climax and the thrilling ending. I used to be going like that. And I'd start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'd stop for lunch, I'd stop for tea, but I'd keep on working. And then all the way through the night, see the sun come up again, 6 in the morning, I'd still be writing, right through the morning, midday, I'm going to keep going. Finally finish about 1:30, 2 o'clock the following afternoon, and then just go like that and crash out, because it's exhausting. It's exhausting living that stuff. I hope that's a clear answer. From Charlie to everyone, how many years have you been writing books? 25 years. 25, half my life. It was 1997. The first books, those little mucky Martians and Alien Olympics and Cars on Mars and School on Saturn came out, but I wrote them in 1996. So there you go, 25 years I've been writing books. I'm 50. I was 50 in September. 9/11 was my 50th birthday, an auspicious date. My 30th went well. Yeah, so I feel very old now. Thanks for asking that question, Charlie. God, blimey. Have I written any comic books? Have I illustrated any of my books? Comes from Karen. I have written Doctor Who comic strips. Actually, I was talking about them for a podcast earlier today, oddly, and I haven't talked about them for ages. And it's quite different writing comic strips because you're also using the pictures to tell the story as well. Also in books. Now, when I wrote Magic Inc., which is all about sort of superheroes and a boy who wishes he was a superhero, and some superhero characters coming to life, and also some just regular comic characters coming to life, I had to write little kind of comics as part of this. You can see there are some pages which have little speech bubbles and sort of speech. And so I quite like mixing up, regular writing with little comic strip panels as well. So it just makes it a little bit more interesting. It makes the story a bit more interesting, I think. I wish I could illustrate my own stuff, but I'm just not really good enough, and I'm not quick enough. So I'm lucky I get to work with lots of illustrators. But I do like Magic Inc. I should talk about Magic Inc. more often, because it's full of really cool pictures by Jim Field, who has gone on to do loads of illustrations for other cool writers, cooler writers even than me. I know is that possible? It is possible. Yeah. But look, it's full of good stuff. So yes is the answer, short answer to that one. How long does it take to write a book? That's what I answered. And who is my favourite writer except me? You mean there are other writers except me? Why did no one inform me of this? I demand a recount. My favourite writer who's not me is, well, there are lots of them, but probably Stan Lee is one of my all-time favourites. Stan Lee, co-creator of Spider-Man and the Hulk and Iron Man and the Avengers and Daredevil and supervillains like Dr. Octopus and the Vulture and the Lizard and Sandman and so many characters, and he kind of created so many things. And Charles M. Schultz, who created Snoopy and Charlie Brown and stuff, he said the job of the comic strip writer is to do the same thing every day without repeating yourself. And that's true of the comic book illustrator and writer as well, and also the serious fiction writer. You have to keep telling similar stories but making them different enough as well. So people who did that and did lots of it have been my heroes. So yeah, Stan Lee and Charles M. Schultz, I think, are probably my favourite writers. And look at the time, we're running out of time, aren't we, Kathy? There's only
one more question, Steve, from Jake.
Yes.
He says, who encouraged you to write?
Who encouraged me to write? I think people used to encourage me to write in school because it shut me up, because I was a bit of a chatterer. I was a bit of a talker, so writing was a way of keeping me quiet. And I'm not sure who encouraged me, really, Jake. I encouraged myself because I thought it was quite fun. I used to work as an editor of books and magazines, and I would take holidays and go off by myself for a week just to write. So it was kind of like that for me was part of the fun, going away somewhere by the sea, somewhere cold in Cornwall or something, and just do some writing. So it was really I quite liked the peace and quiet. But then I get lonely, and then I'd be coming out going blah, 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 at anyone I could, speaking to them at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I like the contrast of both. What's that? Jack Mack says, I look 30. Oh, Jack Mack, you can stay. I like that. Thank you very much. You're so wrong, but that's so nice. Fern asks, what's my favourite part about writing? Finishing writing is my favourite part. Writing the end. That's very satisfying, because it means that you've started something in your head and you've managed to get it down on paper on your computer, and it's very, very satisfying. So yeah, putting that final full stop on is one of my favourite parts. And just thinking up the ideas and realising that, you've got a chance to tell any story you want to tell. You just need to kind of like work out a little plan. And I think that leads into Jane asking if I always know the ending when I start writing a story, which is from Jamie. And normally the answer is yes, or at least I know an ending. I always work out a little plan because it helps me keep track of where I am. Do you ever do that? That does help. If you break things down into smaller sections, it makes them more easily accomplished. You can say, yes, I've done that bit, I've done that bit, and I've done that bit, and now I've got to do this bit. And sometimes you think, oh, I've got a better idea now. I can find a better idea of getting from A to D by going to C rather than to B, you know, and you can sort of work that out. And sometimes you think, you know what, my original ending, I've got a better idea now. But at least I had that idea to start off with, so I knew roughly where it was going. If you have no clue where it's going, then you're going to kind of run out of steam and you're going to lose your train of thought, and you're going to end up going, oh, I hate writing. I hate it. And that would be a shame, because writing is a lot of fun. Or at least telling stories is a lot of fun. Writing is only one of the ways we do it. We can sing stories. We can talk about stories, tell them, we can listen to them on audiobooks. We can use all our senses as a way of telling and experiencing stories. So whatever your relationship with words, I hope that you don't let that interfere with your enjoyment of stories and your enjoyment of using your imagination to make up your own. I hope you will go on doing that and enjoy yourselves, because that's what we're here for, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Steve, thank you.